Happy Friday. And how often during this time of the pandemic have we not felt secure, right? Whether that's because of job, health, family members, because of all the uncertainty that swirls around us, and now within the news, right? We are noticing that it's making the rounds in the news more about the violence against our siblings of a different color, of a different race. And so there are groups of people in this world, not just ourselves, there are groups of people who do not feel secure. And so where do we find some security during this time? Where do we begin to find a foundation of how to begin not only thinking for ourselves, how do we offer ourselves guidance on finding security, but how do we offer that to someone else? Starting in Psalm 37, verses 23 through 26. A person's steps are made secure by the Lord when they delight in his way. Though they trip up, they won't be thrown down because the Lord holds their hand. I was young and now I'm old, but I have never seen the righteous left all alone, have never seen their children begging for bread. They are always gracious and generous. Their children are a blessing. So it's that sense of when we find security in God, it doesn't mean that everything is smoothed out, but we have a particular way of living and being in the world that not only impacts ourselves, that God is with us, that God is guiding us, that God's teachings are with us, that we are facing whatever it is before us, but we begin to share that with others. Here it mentions children. They're always gracious and generous. Their children are a blessing. That means that children are watching, other people are watching, and that our lives become a blessing, not just for ourselves, but for others. And we can apply this in the current situation that we're in with seeing other people facing physical, mental, and spiritual distress of how are we giving security to others, that sense of security that we are standing with. It doesn't mean that we might be able to solve the problem at hand, that we may not be able to stop the pain or the hurt, but how are we going to stand with others, whether they look like us or not? How are we going to stand with others in a sense that God is guiding us and strengthening us for this time, for this living through a pandemic, for living through whatever it is we are facing and others are facing? How do we come together to offer that sense that God is going with us and giving us a new way of living? Pray with me. Oh God, as we try to look for security in our lives in so many different ways, as we try to hold on to that you go this road with us, that you are holding our hand. Help us, oh God, to understand your ways of living, to understand your ways of love and justice, to understand your ways of peace and goodness, to understand your ways of joy and courage. Help us to understand your ways so that our life is gracious and generous, not only for ourselves, but for all people that we meet, for everyone around us. Help us today to be made secure in your way of living so that we can live gracious and generous lives in every situation that we find ourselves. Amen. Have a good one.